One of the best pieces of Destiny 2 content in its history has returned in the Whisper mission. On top of that, Whisper of the Worm is now craftable, and with it being one of the top damage dealers potentially in the game, it's something that every Guardian should have in their kit. So let's show you how anybody can beat the Whisper, and this is going to include the Legend mode. If you need to do it on normal, you can also do it with the same strats. And of course, I'm going to use no raid gear, no crazy strats. I'm going to show you exactly where to stand and what to do. And of course, all of these strategies also work if you're in a group. So if you want to carry some of your friends and get them their Whispers, you're going to be ahead of the game with this guide. If you want to solo this or solo flawless this, you can also get some of the triumphs in the game. First thing we're going to do is talk about the build. You'll need a Dawn Chorus helmet, which is easily attainable, and we're going to use that in conjunction with the artifact and our build on Dawn Blade. We're going to be using the Daybreak Super, not a well. And then we're going to be using these aspects and fragments. We're going to be using Icarus Dash to help us with the jumping puzzle parts of it, as well as Touch of Flame. If you want to use Heat Rises, you certainly can, but for me, I found that those two first aspects worked best for me. This is all about spreading scorch stacks all over, so you're going to need to have Ember of Char, so your ignition spreads scorch, as well as Ember of Ashes. Those two work really well together. Next up is Ember of Empyrean. We want to extend Restoration and Radiant for as long as we possibly can. We actually use it for some different hacks inside of it. And then of course, Ember of Eruption, again, stacking up those scorch stacks. Next up, we're going to be using a Polaris Lance. It is an extremely broken build this season, and most people know about it, but we're going to be using that, and we're going to be using this to actually break some parts of this mission, and I'll show you that in the video. But the key thing, Dawn Chorus, Polaris Lance working together. Next up, you need some type of a machine gun or a really good ad clear weapon. I like my fixed odds with incandescent and field prep, so I have tons of ammo. But if you don't have that, there are some other options as well. You could get an avalanche. I know that's not available right now, but that has incandescent on it, as well as the Trials LMG Unwavering Duty. All you have to do is play Trials and just get some engrams and you can get that one. Or if you want to use some other LMGs, you could use a Marcato 45 or a Retrofit Escapade. Let's show you with the artifact what you should be running. You definitely need to have Kindling Trigger so you can get solar weapons to apply Scorch, along with Flint Striker. Flint Striker is the most important thing with some of the tricks I'm going to do in this, so make sure that you have that on, of course, from whence you came, because every enemy in here is going to be a taken combatant. Along with all those other solar abilities and solar artifact perks, you want to have Rays of Precision on. That is going to work really well together with Flint Striker. It's going to be really good. And of course, if you're running solo, make sure that you have Solo Operative on so you do more damage if you are by yourself. In the Whisper mission, sniper rifle damage is increased, so you want to have something really solid in your kinetic slot. Now, best in slot is the Supremacy with rewind rounds and kinetic tremors. Now, of course, that is a raid weapon, so I'm going to give you some other options. Right now, with Into the Light, you can get a Succession, which is a great choice because it also has the potential to run Reconstruction. Make sure that you put Taken Spec on those weapons as well. Another world drop, which is really good, is the Urakanji, but the truth is as long as you're using a sniper rifle in this mission, it will work really well. You could use a blinding grenade launcher as well, but I find that the sniper damage works really well to take out some of those bosses. Of course, make sure that you have 100 resilience. Make sure that you have at least one arc resistance mod on, as well as at least 1 or 2 solar damage resistance mods on your chest piece. There is a lot of arc and solar damage that comes at the end here. There is a little bit of void damage, but we're going to show you how to mitigate that. Pop on Proximity Ward on your class item. That will allow you to get an overshield, which will be super helpful. And then on top of that, make sure that you have a couple of solar weapon surges. And of course, if you want to, change it to a solar scavenger so you can get lots of heavy. And of course, make sure that you have a heavy ammo finder in your helmet slot. To start the Whisper mission, if you don't have access to it, make sure you do the initial mission and onslaught playlist and then go talk to Shax in the Hall of Champions. He'll then give you the note to go talk to Eris on the moon. Go talk to Eris on the moon, and then you should have access to the Whisper mission here in the Into the Light node. For context, I've completed this solo flawless on both the normal difficulty and legend difficulty, and I captured footage from both The strategies are basically the same for both. So if you see that it is normal on one video and legend on another, I'm not trying to grift you. I just got gameplay footage from both and I'm just fitting it in as best as I can to make a good video. All right, let's launch into the mission and let's cover this first room here. There are a couple of little secrets and things that you should know, especially for the catalyst. First things first, in this room, if you're having issues with the jumping puzzle, you can shoot this little Vex node here. It will create a very easy jumping platform for you to get up to this platform, kill this Taken Centurion, and then blow up this Blight. Next up, if you need to shoot the 3 blights to get the catalyst on legend mode, the 3 blights are here in this room. There's one right in front of you, one to the left of this tree, and then one to the right over here in this big tall tree. Now, if you need to restart the mission to make sure that you have enough time, you can certainly do that and get that time back left so you're not under a crunch when you're under legend mode. All right, once you've killed this blight here, you can fall down the hole. If you are uncomfortable with platforming sections, having a sword here will potentially help you land your jumps. The very first oracle that you need for the Taken ship, or the Taken Vex kind of ship that comes from Whisper of the Worm, is over here to the left. So I've already shot this oracle, but it is in this space right here. This is a time gated piece, so you won't be able to get all the oracles all at once. This part of the jumping puzzle is pretty self-explanatory. Don't get hit by the things jutting out of the wall. If they do, try to save it by using your sword, or if you want to, you can also use Strand. The biggest thing is just to pace your jumps and take your time on this opening section, because for some people who don't like platforming, this can be daunting. Now, once you get here, there is a blind jump. You can either Icarus dash or use a sword, and that'll get you across really easily. There is also a Taken node up above there that you can shoot and make this jump easier. Now, this is a little trick that I use. You can either use Strand and go to the left over there and make your jump, or you can just use a sword and just slam it all the way through to this area and then jump across. Either Strand or sword is really good, or you could wait, but those 2 ways are quite a bit faster and save you a lot of time. Watch out for that hole right there and jump up to that platform. Now, this is something that often happens in Whisper. That platform is very finicky and you can't clamber or climb on top of it. Wait till it's at its lowest position and then jump on over. Another option is you can just have your sword out and then you can land that jump a little bit easier. As you're jumping up here, watch out for the thing that pops out of the wall and head to your left, or continue on going forward. This is where you're going to find the second oracle for the next schematic for the Taken/Vex ship in here. After you do that, head back the way you came and then go to the next parts of the jumping puzzle. This next room, as you continue on, is a little annoying. If you've got a sword out, it can save you as well in case if you get booped off. Just keep pushing forward into the right, and then you're going to enter into this area. The key thing is just to time your jumps along with the Taken blasting boops that come out of the wall, and then jump over to this platform. Now, just a heads up, this is also where we think there is a third oracle. So what you're going to do is jump through this door here, and then instead of continuing to move forward, we're going to turn around. If you look to your left, there will be a little Vex node that you can shoot, and immediately after you do that, that will potentially be where another one of those oracles for the Taken ship is going to be. The rest of the jumping puzzle is very easy. Just follow the path that you see here on screen, go to the far right hole over here, and then take the shortcut by turning around. Again, if any of that is too fast, just use the YouTube setting button to turn down the speed in this section. When you're going around that edge there on that platform I just passed, hold to the left so that you don't fall off the edge. Once you get here, we're about to get into combat. All right, let's show you some of the hacks we're going to use. The key thing we want to do is take care of the snipers in this first room first, as well as proc Radiant. They're going to be putting up their shields constantly, and by being Radiant, it gives you intrinsic anti-barrier. So being able to do that is a really, really easy way for you to take care of all of these enemies. Of course, if you want to use a machine gun in this area like I'm going to do, make sure you turn that on. Now, you'll notice that I'm only killing the snipers and the yellow bar enemies. There is a reason for that. If you kill some of the thrall down in the bottom, that will actually spawn even more enemies, and they're going to be a little bit harder to deal with. So instead, take a second, get all of these folks that are on elevated platforms, knock them out, and if you're going to get hit by any kind of arc Taken blast, just hop on over. This guy likes to jump and fall down and then jump back up. It's a weird glitch that happens in the game, so just take your time with this guy. He's a little annoying, not a huge deal, but just continue to try and proc Radiant so that you can stay alive. Now at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to gather all of these enemies up into one big location. And because I've got my scorch stacks building up here, I'm going to rip through every single one of those enemies, which will allow me to knock them out with very little ammunition used. At this point, continue that, and now I'm radiant, so I can shoot through his taken shield. This is a trick we're going to use through this entire mission and kind of mitigates a lot of the challenges. Do be careful because there are some taken hobgoblins that are going to be shielding some of the enemies. Just take a second, and the key is to jump onto the elevated platforms and make sure that you stay alive. If you get your super back, you can certainly use it at this point to rip through some of these enemies, but I like to save it for the third room because it allows us to kill things very quickly in there, and because it's so exposed, it's tougher to do. Now here in this section, again, I'm able to kill all of those enemies very quickly. If you can't open the door, it means that there's a taken enemy lurking around somewhere. Now, I hope you've noticed that I haven't killed any of the taken blight umbrella-like areas. The truth is, you don't need to. You just need to take care of all of the enemies and then move on. In this area, I'm going to run forward to this room over here, again, gathering up all of the ads. And what I'm doing is creating a choke point that all of the enemies will have to get through, and then I can just use Polaris Lance to make them all go away. And because I'm using an exotic primary, I'm also able to spawn a little bit more ammunition. Now, this room is probably the trickiest out of all the rooms other than the boss room. Take a second and knock out this enemy here to the right. Do it really quickly because there is going to be some taken snipers that you're going to want to take out. And I just popped my super because I'm so exposed in this room. I want to take all of these enemies out as quickly as possible. Those snipers, because they do shoot void, will do a lot of damage, especially on the legend difficulty. But the great part about this is that I've taken care of all of those enemies. There's just a couple of knights that I can easily snipe. And because sniper damage is increased in this area, I don't have to take a lot of time to knock them out. Very easy. It opens the door, get some ammo, and move on. Now, this is one area you need to do something a little bit tricky. There's going to be two taken enemies that are going to spawn behind you at this point. So you want to move up far enough so you can take care of that taken goblin and then run back all the way up over here so that those taken phalanxes don't knock you out. Instead, let them move forward, get out your machine gun, and be ready to cook them. However, they can potentially boop you here. The nice thing is that once they boop you once and you get the incandescent proc and all the solar scorches stack, you can knock them out pretty easily. At this point, our goal is to knock out the taken hobgoblins and not take any of that void damage. At this point, let all these little taken scions gather up and just use Polaris Lance on them. If you're lucky, you might get some heavy ammo to spawn as well. Watch out for this new big hole on the right side over here. And the nice thing about this area is now in the new Whisper is you're going to get a rally flag before you do the boss fight. So just absolutely destroy these enemies. One trick you're going to use in this boss fight is you're going to use these two side rooms here to bait out the different enemies. You'll notice that I went forward to the far side of the room. I was able to get all of those taken phalanxes to shoot the wrong door. And at that point, I'm building up scorch stacks. I'm making sure that they explode the other enemies around them. It's going to work really, really well. Once you kill all of the enemies, you're going to get a rally flag, which is awesome. And then you're going to have your choice. You can either take on all of the bosses all at once, or you can take them on one at a time. I'm me, so I'm going to take them all out one at a time. The nice thing about this is because with this build, you can actually spread out massive damage to multiple bosses at once. That means that your super is going to be used really, really well here. You'll notice here, I'm able to knock out these enemies. I pop my super and then immediately head over to this back side area. When I'm doing that, I'm using my LMG to knock out the different bosses. And if I'm radiant, I can shoot through all those shields. Now that I'm here in this safe spot, I drop a rift and just start to go to town for all the enemies that are going to come over in this area. Again, like I said earlier in the video, we're going to use this tunnel here to kind of bait out the different enemies. What I'm going to do is if there's too much fire on one opening of the side rooms, I'm just going to go to the opposite opening and take out the different enemies that I can. Because of that, I was able to take out that sniper that was annoying me on the far side, as well as get the bosses to come over to this area where I have a little bit more opportunities to do damage. What you can do if you can't get good shots at the enemy is go towards the entrance side of the room and then go to the other side room. By doing this, you can potentially get some more of those enemies that are trying to kill you, and you might get better shots at the boss. For example, right here, I'm able to stack up a lot of scorch stacks, spreading to lots of different enemies. One thing you do need to watch out for is that the boss that shoots solar is very, very potent at that area. So I'm going to take turns doing what I said earlier, going back and forth between the two different openings to knock out all of the different enemies that are spawned up here at this point. What you'll notice that the enemies don't chase you inside of these side rooms, which gives you an opportunity to absolutely slay out, especially if you have a solar LMG. The key is just play your life, make sure that when you're engaging the enemies, you have most of your life back, and then just spread those scorch stacks all over as much as possible, either using Polaris Lance or using the LMG. The really nice thing about this is that if you can spread enough scorch stacks, you can actually stun the bosses for a second. Now, when you're going through the different enemy bosses, one of the things you do have to watch out for is all of the individual attacks. For example, the Taken boss that shoots fire, the Taken boss that shoots arc Taken blasts, and then the other one that shoots Axion darts. The fastest and best way I've dealt with this is by popping a super and killing at least one of them so that you can take care of one of those little individual pieces. Without all three attacks coming at you at once, it's actually a lot easier to handle killing those bosses, and you can get those scorch stacks absolutely rocking on the boss. The hardest boss to deal with is the Cabal Taken enemy of Tararik. He has a tiny crit spot, and so I just use an LMG on him to knock him out as soon as possible because he is really annoying to get the Polaris Lance effect to proc. So instead, just LMG him as much as you can, and then you don't have to worry about the Axion darts and not really any of the void damage anymore. Once you've killed 2 of the 3 bosses, this is your chance to kind of catch your breath for a second and make sure that you're ready for the final boss fight. There will be some more enemies that are going to spawn up. This is a great opportunity for you to rebuild your super, which you're going to want to have for the big ogre that is now the change in the 2024 version of the Whisper mission. Even though I have heavy and sniper energy with this guy here, I'm just going to use Polaris Lance to knock him out. You do need to watch out and sometimes power through those arc attacks because they can kill you if you get hit by 2 or 3 of them, depending on your resilience. The biggest thing is just start proccing Radiant and then get as many of those scorch stacks to kill the invisible Minotaurs as much as possible. Save as much of your ammo, you're going to need it for the final boss. Once you've killed the 3rd boss, move out as quickly as possible to grab ammo and get in position for the final boss. The boss cannot be damaged unless you kill the 2 wizards that are on the right and left of him. This is a good opportunity to get behind cover and instantly take care of one of the wizards right away. Once you've killed that first wizard, you'll need to head back into the side rooms and try to either angle for a shot or head back to the entrance side and go across to the other side room, making sure that you have lots of cover to take care of that wizard. By doing that, I've baited the boss to the left, and I've got easy shots to easily take care of the shield on that wizard. Now, the best way to engage the boss is to make sure that you have lots of cover because he is a Taken boss and he's a giant ogre. He will shoot you with those arc blasts that can propel you across the map if you're not ready for it. But if you'll notice here, I'm able to stun the boss using this Polaris Lance build, and I can just use an LMG as much as I possibly want. Another thing you can do is to hit him with a solar ability like a melee, and then that'll weaken him. You can see the purple kind of effect on him. That means that he's weakened, and I can do even more damage to him at this point. If I want to, I can also change to a sniper and just start to hit him, but you won't get the incandescent effect or the solar effects. Now, once you do enough damage, you're going to get some of these Taken Thrall. They're going to start to try and defend him. Easiest thing to do is just do what you did in the opening section of the boss fight and just go to the side rooms. Lots of cover. The enemies will chase you though into this area, so just be ready for it. You can either use an LMG here or you can use Polaris Lance to knock them out, but they will continue to start attacking you. The biggest piece of advice, keep your head on a swivel and be mobile. Always have an escape route and always be willing to use cover from a different location and just continue to plug away at the boss. Once he puts his shield back up, you'll need to repeat the process of killing the wizards. However, there will be some Taken blights that you will need to knock out. The great part about this is that those Taken blights don't even matter because you can just shoot through them because you're Radiant. It's also really easy to hit pot shots at this point with the different wizards if you just run from different side room to different side room, just taking your time, nothing crazy here. Again, making sure that you proc Radiant. This is a really good spot for boss damage here because you can take care of the different adds that are are coming at you, plus just plugging away at the boss. If you need to, put up a healing rift, but basically at this point, you're done. All you got to do is keep plugging away at the enemies. And then when you're ready, if you've got your super, just take a couple more sniper pot shots. And when you feel safe, pop your super, stay towards the entrance side, and then knock out the boss. If you go to the far side where the chest spawns, the boss can actually push you off the edge. So if you do that, you can get pushed all the way off the edge. And even if you're in your daybreak, you can die at that point. And that's all there is to it, folks. That's the Whisper on Legend and how anybody can knock it out. It'll help you get your catalyst. It'll help you get one of the best weapons in the game. If you need more help, come on over to twitch.tv/ManoDestra, where I bring people through all of these exotic missions. And I'm really looking forward to doing the one for 0 Hour as well. So if you need any help, come on over there. Make sure you join the Discord, which is linked in the description box below. Sub, like, good hunting, Guardians. I'll see you next time in the universe of Destiny.